What if death isn't the end, but the beginning of something no one ever told you about? What if, after your final breath, a journey begins that lasts for 31 days, taking you through stages of shock, truth, and transformation? And what if this exact journey has been quietly described, piece by piece, across ancient civilizations that never even met, hidden in tombs, whispered in rituals, and nearly erased from history because it revealed something too powerful to be allowed? Now imagine you're in a forgotten basement, surrounded by dust and silence, and you find a book no one was ever supposed to read. It's wrapped in faded cloth and marked with strange symbols. You open it slowly, and the pages feel older than anything you've ever held. They're written in red and black ink, full of words that sound almost like instructions, but not for the living. You begin to read, and your hands tremble. It describes, in vivid detail, what happens after someone dies. Not a distant heaven, not a fiery hell, but a 31-day process the soul goes through after it leaves the body. Step by step, emotion by emotion, moment by moment. It's not a story. It's not fiction. It feels like a forgotten truth, finally surfacing. This book was burned in public squares centuries ago, hidden, banned, not because it was evil, but because it dared to say something different, something freeing. It claimed that every soul, regardless of religion or belief, travels the same path after death, a path shaped not by judgment, but by how they lived. It challenged the idea that others can control your fate. It whispered that the soul is free, and that death is not the end, but the mirror we all must face. Long ago, Egyptians spoke of a book that helped souls travel through the underworld. Tibetans described something called the bardo, a place where consciousness floats between worlds after the body dies. African and indigenous traditions hold month-long rituals, believing the soul needs that much time to complete its passage. These cultures were oceans apart, and yet they each spoke of something that sounds strangely familiar to the book you're holding in your hands, as if humanity, through scattered pieces of wisdom, has always known that death isn't sudden. It's a slow unfolding, a silent transition, a sacred process that lasts much longer than we think. No one knows exactly where the book came from. Some say it was discovered by monks in the 1600s, hidden inside the wall of a crumbling church in the French mountains. Others say it was spoken aloud by a medium in the 1800s during spiritual trances, word for word, just as voices from beyond dictated it. A few believe it's even older, that it came from a forgotten civilization that saw death not as something to fear, but as the final stage of soul learning before moving on. In every version of the story, one thing remains the same. The content of the book terrified those who read it, not because it spoke of monsters or curses, but because it told the truth. The book describes what happens the moment you die, not in symbols, not in myths, but clearly. The soul doesn't vanish. It begins to detach. Slowly, it rises above the body. It sees everything but can't be seen. There's still a thread, the so-called silver cord, that connects it to the physical form. When this cord breaks, the soul is finally free. But freedom is not the same as peace. At first, there's confusion. The soul doesn't always realize it has died. It tries to speak, to move, to scream, but nothing works. It sees people crying. It watches the efforts to revive its body. It tries to stop what has already happened. Denial sets in. Panic rises. Many souls linger, unsure of what to do, floating between here and somewhere else, stuck between life and what comes after. At this stage, the world looks the same but feels different. It's like walking through a memory. The soul still feels alive. It can think, remember, feel, but it's no longer part of the physical world. Doors don't open. People don't respond. Everything it once knew has changed. Some souls return home. Some follow loved ones. Some attend their own funerals. They cry. They beg, but no one hears them. The pain isn't physical anymore. It's emotional, sharp, and disorienting. The soul wants to go back, but can't. And then comes the presence. Quiet at first, almost invisible. Something or someone is nearby, waiting, watching. These are not angels in robes or glowing beings. They are simply presences, calm and patient. They don't push. They don't speak. They wait for the soul to settle, to realize that death has already happened, and that a new journey has begun. Around the fifth day, the soul begins to feel the weight of its truth. The part of the book most people can't forget describes what happens next. A complete life review. Not just memories replaying, but full experiences returning, as if the soul is stepping back into every moment it lived. But this time, it doesn't see the past from its own eyes. It sees it through the people it affected, the joy it gave, the pain it caused, the moments of silence when a word could have helped, the laughter it shared, the hearts it broke, the love it held back. And it feels everything, not as punishment, but as understanding, not as guilt, but as awakening. Time disappears. There is only truth. The soul begins to see the patterns it lived with, the fears that shaped its choices, the pride that kept it from healing, the love it missed because it was afraid to open up. It also sees its goodness, the quiet moments of courage, the kindness that mattered more than it knew. Everything is clear. Everything is felt. The soul realizes, maybe for the first time, who it really was. And then comes the hardest part. What to do with that truth? Some souls crumble under it. They cling to regret. They spiral in shame. Others find compassion. They cry, but with softness. They forgive themselves. They see that they were trying, even when they didn't always succeed, that their mistakes were part of their journey, that they are more than the worst things they've done. And that forgiveness, the forgiveness of self, is what allows them to move forward. What comes next is the crossing, not of a river or a gate or a tunnel, but something invisible. A shift, a moment, a choice. On one side is the weight of everything the soul hasn't let go of. On the other is the unknown. And the soul must choose to surrender, to trust, to let go of everything it thought it needed, everything it clung to, everything it feared. Some souls turn back, some refuse, some aren't ready. But the ones who do cross, who take that brave, silent step into what comes next, describe it as the most peaceful thing they've ever felt. Not light in the sky, not singing, just quiet, clarity, relief. And that's only a part of the journey. There are still days to come, still lessons, still unfolding. But everything that happens in those days, everything the soul faces, is shaped by the way it lived before. That's what the book wants us to know, that the life we live now is not just a life. It's the path we're building for the journey after. And maybe that's why this knowledge was buried. Not because it's evil, but because it gives power back to the individual. It says that no priest, no temple, no belief system decides what happens next. We do, through every choice we make, through every word we speak, through the way we treat each other and ourselves. This is not a story meant to scare. It's not a warning. It's an invitation to live with more honesty, to love more deeply, to speak more kindly, to forgive more quickly, to pay attention, not out of fear of punishment, but out of love for who we are becoming. Because one day, when our final moment comes, we will walk this path too. And the more conscious we are now, the lighter that path will feel. So ask yourself, if today were the last day before the journey began, what would you do differently? Who would you forgive? What truth would you face? What love would you stop hiding? Because death may be waiting far in the future, but the transformation it brings starts long before we get there. It starts here. It starts now. It starts with the way we live while we're still alive. After a person dies, their journey doesn't end right away. There's a phase that begins where the soul is no longer tied to the physical world, but it hasn't yet reached what comes next. This stage isn't a place in the way we usually think of places. It's not somewhere you can walk or touch. It's more like a state of being, a space between life and the next chapter, and it feels very real to the soul going through it. This space is not made of roads or walls, but of emotions, memories, and energies. It reflects everything the soul still holds on to, especially the things it didn't deal with during life. The things a person didn't understand, forgive, face, or release while they were alive rise up and become clear here. That includes all the fears they hid from, all the guilt they carried but never spoke about, and all the pain they tried to forget. In this space, those feelings aren't just emotions anymore. They become vivid experiences. Fear can take form. Guilt can become a weight that presses on the soul, and confusing thoughts that were never sorted out begin to echo, sometimes over and over. The soul starts to feel in a deep way everything it didn't heal in life. It's like standing in a mirror, but instead of seeing your face, you see your unresolved pain, your regrets, your choices, your forgotten parts. The soul is very sensitive in this phase. It doesn't have the body to distract it or protect it from these emotions anymore. So everything feels raw and magnified. Some souls see this space as dark or shadowy. Others experience it as a confusing maze or a valley filled with echoes from their past. The shapes and sounds are not separate from the soul. They are parts of it. Some souls see past relationships, addictions, or painful memories return. Some feel trapped in illusions that reflect something they couldn't let go of. People, places, or even voices may appear, not as punishment, but as reflections of something unfinished. This is a natural process, not a cruel one. Nothing in this space is forced. It is simply the soul meeting what it left unresolved. There comes a moment in this space when other presences can be felt, calm, quiet, and loving presences that don't speak loudly or command the soul. These are the spiritual companions who have always been close, though they never interfered with the soul's choices. They walk beside the soul now, not to rescue it, but simply to be there. But even they cannot pull the soul through this place. The soul must move forward on its own. No one can walk through this stage for someone else. Even in death, the law of free will remains. Every soul has the right to choose, to stay, to move forward, or to ask for help. What matters here is not force, but choice. This place is not about punishment. It's more like a natural cleansing. The old layers that no longer serve the soul begin to dissolve. Everything that was false, heavy, or unnecessary is burned away gently by the intensity of the experience. It's like walking through fire, but instead of destroying the soul, the fire melts away what doesn't belong. The purpose is not to hurt, but to prepare. The soul is being made ready for the next stage of existence, a higher level of awareness, a more peaceful state of being. But not every soul moves forward easily. Some souls get stuck. If a soul refuses to let go, if it clings to the life it knew, to people, to pain, to fear, or even to their old identity, it can end up staying in this space for a long time. These are the souls often described as wandering or trapped. They loop through memories, stuck in guilt or attachment. But souls who took time during their life to understand themselves, to practice compassion, to reflect, to forgive others and themselves, they pass through this space with more ease. That doesn't mean it's painless, but it is clearer. They understand what is happening and accept it. Different cultures have used different images to describe this passage. Some say it's like a river. Others describe it as a bridge. But the truth is, every soul experiences it in a way that matches how they lived and what they believed. The soul sees what it is ready to see. Each person creates their own version of this crossing through how they lived, what they feared, what they believed, and what they carried within them. The lesson is very clear. Don't wait until death to face what's hidden inside. Deal with your fears now. Face your pain now. Forgive now. Let go now. Every wound you heal now is one less obstacle later. Every burden you release now makes your journey lighter when the time comes. As the soul moves through this space and begins to release what it was holding, something soft begins to change. The pressure lightens. The emotions quiet down. The soul begins to sense something warm and deeply familiar. This is the beginning of a reunion. The soul starts to feel the presence of those it has known before, those it loved, those it learned with, those it walked beside across many lives. It's not just family members from this life. It's deeper than that. These are souls that shared purpose, pain, growth, and love across many lifetimes. And they come not to judge, but to welcome. They come with love, calm, and a kind of knowing that goes beyond words. Being near them feels like remembering something that was always there but long forgotten. The soul doesn't need to speak to be understood. It's felt, known, embraced. This reunion is a moment of peace, comfort, and clarity. These presences appear in different forms, sometimes as people the soul remembers, other times as glowing shapes, lights, or symbolic figures. They represent not just family, but the deeper spiritual lineage the soul is part of. They include teachers, healers, protectors, Souls who once stood beside this one in different lifetimes, in different roles, all walking the same path of growth. In this moment, some souls are given the chance to heal old relationships, to make peace with parents, children, partners, or friends from past lives. Truths that were never spoken may come to the surface. Emotions that were never processed may finally be released. But this is not just emotional healing. These presences also help guide the soul. They show it the next steps. They help the soul understand what it still carries, what it can release, and what its next path might be. But this kind of reunion only happens when the soul has let go of enough attachment to the world it left behind. If it is still too caught in guilt, or pain, or longing for what it had, it might not feel these presences. It might confuse them for memories or mental images. The more a soul clings to its old life, the harder it is to feel the love that is waiting to meet it. After this reunion, the soul reaches a point of no return. There's no more pretending. The soul knows it has died. There's no confusion, no fear, only clarity. And with that clarity comes a deep and powerful choice. Not a choice made with words, but a choice made through feeling, through energy, through the essence of what the soul has become. The soul is drawn toward a new destination. This direction matches the soul's current state. Some souls rise toward higher realms, peaceful and full of light, because they have released the weights that tied them to the world. Others feel pulled to return to life, to continue learning, to finish something left incomplete. And others, caught in confusion or attachment, remain close to the physical world, unsure of where to go. This decision is shaped by everything the soul experienced in life. If the person practiced awareness, lived truthfully, sought peace, and listened to their heart, the next step becomes obvious. But if the person avoided life, lived in distraction, or always looked outside themselves for meaning, this moment can be overwhelming. The soul might feel lost or unsure, but even here, free will remains. The soul can still grow, still ask for help, still change its path. Nothing is fixed. What matters most is not what the soul believed, but how much it understood, how much it loved, and how deeply it knew itself. After this decision, the soul doesn't immediately leave. There's one last step. The soul must visit the life it left behind. It returns, not physically, but in awareness, to the places, people, and memories that shaped it. It sees its old home. It watches the people it loved. It walks through its past, not to judge, but to say goodbye. Beautiful moments may bring tears. Painful ones may bring understanding. In this space, the soul sees everything for what it really was. It feels, it remembers, but it no longer clings. Slowly, gently, the soul begins to let go. Everything the soul sees now feels different. It's not solid, like in the physical world. It's like walking through memories made of light. The soul sees that so many of the things it once thought were important, money, status, titles, were not real. They were just costumes. What mattered was what came from the heart. Love, truth, kindness, courage. That's what remains. That's what moves forward. But if a soul has deep attachments, like to a child it left behind, or a love it never resolved, it can get stuck here. It might keep trying to go back, to change something, to stay close to those it left. This keeps the soul from moving forward. That's why people pray, light candles, and send love during this time. Those acts help the soul let go and continue. Eventually, the soul enters a completely new space, a space of deep understanding. There's no more looking back. The soul begins to see everything from above, as if watching the full story. It understands why things happened, what they meant, and how each moment shaped its journey. The soul remembers who it truly is. It understands that it was never just a person living a life. It was always a soul learning, growing, remembering. This is where the ego finally fades. The soul no longer clings to the idea of me and mine. It sees clearly that the life it lived was a stage, a story, a lesson, and now it's ready for what comes next. The soul starts to feel a pull, not from outside, but from within. It begins to rise toward the world it now belongs to. That world matches the soul's true vibration, the energy it built through every thought, action, and choice. The soul isn't sent anywhere. It simply goes where it fits. It feels like home. Some souls move to places where others are still learning. Some return to earth. Some rise to levels of peace where they help others. No one tells the soul where to go. It goes where it is ready to go. And that readiness comes from who it has become. In these final moments, the love of those still alive can still be felt. Prayers, kind words, memories, candles, tears, all of it reaches the soul and helps it. These moments are powerful. The soul is still open, still listening, still feeling. The love sent now can make the difference between getting stuck and moving forward in peace. And then, when the journey is complete, the soul steps fully into its next life. The door closes. The cycle ends. There is no going back. But this is not the end. This is the beginning of what the soul truly is. Death is not a punishment. It is not a failure. It is the harvest of everything we became. What happens next is not about what we wanted. It's about what we chose. Day by day, moment by moment, with our actions, our feelings, our courage, and our love.